Warning: content may be upsetting or triggering for people, with reference to sensitive topics such as mental health, suicide, racism, and gender inequality, amongst others.
Disadvantaged young people, disadvantaged communities. Have you ever heard these terms used before? Have you ever really understood what they mean?
Sometimes we can feel like these terms are labels, like a badge we have to wear so everyone knows we're different. Often, we feel like it's our responsibility that we are different, even when it's not, and it can leave us feeling ashamed, embarrassed, or angry. Facing a disadvantage in life, such as racial or gender inequalities, means that some of us, through no fault of our own, have the odds stacked against us. A bit like being in a race with everyone else starting 10 seconds before us. There are lots of us that face disadvantages for loads of different reasons, and it means that life isn't fair for everyone.
Social justice is another term you might have heard of. Basically, this is when people have fair access to money and opportunities, and some countries are good at this, like Denmark, Norway, and Finland. Did you know that in the UK, though, in 2016, the richest 10% of the population have 44% of all the money in the country, and the poorest 50% only have 9%, and the gap is only becoming bigger?
Why are we telling you this? Well, this video is going to explore exactly what we mean when we say somebody is facing disadvantage or even multiple disadvantage, and often it's because of the systems that surround us that have been set up unfairly, like education or health or employment, and not something that either ourselves or our families have or haven't done.
Let's look at places. None of us get to choose where we are born, but where we grow up and live makes a massive difference to how well we can get on in life. Blackpool is a small seaside town in the United Kingdom, and for lots of different reasons it is the most deprived area in England. By the age of 3, in Blackpool, a child is on average already 9 months behind in terms of their learning and development, such as reading, writing, and problem solving, compared to a child in a more wealthy area, and this gap will get even bigger by the time they reach the age of 14. In fact, according to the Health Index, Blackpool has the highest risk factors for children of all of the 149 authorities across England, so how much is this affecting life chances?
In education, we know from lots of reports that the north of England is far more disadvantaged than the south when it comes to outcomes and opportunities. For example, if a child is on free school meals in London, they are still on average 40% more likely to get good GCSE outcomes than a child on free school meals in the north, and they are twice as likely to go on to university.
In other areas, like Yorkshire and some parts of the North East, children are 4 times more likely to get fixed-term exclusions from school than areas in the south of England, and more than 10 times more likely to be permanently excluded from school than, say, in Kent. And we all know how hard it is for any young person to succeed in life if they've been permanently excluded from school.
A boy born in Westminster can expect, on average, to live until they're around 84 years old. Compare this with Blackpool, which is just 75 years old, a difference of 9 years. Is it fair that society is set up in a way that your postcode can affect your life chances so much?
But it's not just where we live that affects our chances in getting on in life. Let's look at the experiences of people from different ethnic groups. Take Alex, who is a black British young person that lives in London. Between the age of 16 and 24, Alex is less likely to have the chance of employment than Charlie, who is a white British young person. In 2019, across England, Wales and Scotland, only 37% of 16 to 24-year-old black young people were in employment, compared with 58% of white young people, and if Alex and Charlie went to university and got degrees, on average, Alex would be paid 23% less than Charlie.
In the community, Alex is also more likely to be stopped by police, with 67% of children stopped in London being from a minority ethnic group, and for that to result in a violent arrest and prison sentence, with 7 out of 10 children tasered in London being children of colour. No wonder Alex doesn't always feel safe. Taking it one step further, in prison, 40% of under 18s are of black or mixed ethnicity, compared with a general population split of around 85% white, with the remaining 15% from minority ethnic groups. This is a huge imbalance. Black prisoners are also more likely to serve their full sentence compared with white prisoners.
This is not a reflection on individual people. This highlights the racist systems that still exist in education, employment and law enforcement, meaning that people of colour face disadvantage.
Let's think about young people who experience disability. People who experience disabilities have less opportunities when it comes to education and employment compared to those who don't experience disabilities. This is Jamie. Jamie experiences a disability, and when they leave school, they are twice as likely to be without an education, employment or training opportunity compared with Taylor, who doesn't experience a disability. As an adult, Jamie has less likelihood of gaining employment than Taylor, as only 47% of disabled adults are in employment, compared with 80% of non-disabled people. Shocking, isn't it? Jamie is also more likely to experience the harsher end of poverty, as 1 in 5 people who experience a disability are living in poverty compared to 1 in 13 people who do not experience a disability. It's not only Jamie who is at a disadvantage because they are disabled. 50% of people who live in poverty live in a household with a person who experiences a disability like Jamie's. Is it right that the systems within our society label people as being disabled, often restricting the opportunities and quality of life they have, when it's arguably society that is disabling and not inclusive?
Let's take a look at issues of gender. As we know, gender is a spectrum, but for the purposes of this video, we will be looking at the male and female comparison. Take Paul, for example. During his school life, Paul is more likely to be excluded from school than Tilly, as across England, boys are more than twice as likely to be excluded than girls. On the other hand, when Paul and Tilly go to work, Tilly is much more likely to be paid less than Paul for doing the same job, with males on average earning 15.5% more than females. When it comes to our mental health, there is a higher risk that Paul will take his own life. Suicide is the biggest killer of men under the age of 45, with the belief that men, such as Paul, find it hard to open up about their feelings and stresses and are less likely to seek help.
Why is it that in the 21st century the systems around us are still creating disadvantage depending on gender, whether that is pay, access to opportunities, or even if your gender is widely recognised?
You might be thinking how difficult it is for everyone facing lots of disadvantage to get on in life. And of course this is true, and one of the reasons we put this video together, so we can work together to change these unfair systems. But we also know that lots of people do still get on in life, despite the odds being stacked against them. Young people up and down the country defy the odds every single day. You might be one of them. And we're not just talking about traditional successes such as qualifications or landing a job. We mean everything that is considered a win, from getting yourself to school despite hard times at home, through to joining a social club when suffering with anxiety. Doing better than expected despite ongoing challenges is called resilience. Resilience that considers social justice also thinks about creating fairer systems and structures so that Alex, Jamie, Paul and Tilly no longer face disadvantages in life. There is lots of information about resilience and social justice on this website.
Despite some people succeeding, many don't, and will be living in challenging circumstances from the get-go. It all seems so unfair that huge life chances and experiences are determined by where we live, our gender, our race, or whether we have a disability or not, all things beyond our control. So why is it like this? Who gets to decide?
Well, let's take a position of power, such as a Prime Minister. Since 1945, 11 of the 14 Prime Ministers have attended Oxford University, with prior education mostly taking place at elite private or grammar schools, such as Eton College. So you might think that this is almost impossible for a person born into a poorer community to reach a position of power, such as a Prime Minister, within our current political system. It's not just the Prime Minister. Our society has a history of privileged people creating unfair systems to maintain things as a norm, which includes millions of people being disadvantaged through racism, sexism, ableism, and prejudice against those in poverty. If the majority of people who make decisions about the systems within our society are from privileged backgrounds, can they really possess the knowledge, experience, and arguably the desire to change things to become more fair and just?
The examples given in this video are only a few of the inequalities that millions of people are facing on a daily basis in the UK. This is what we mean by words like unfair, unequal, and disadvantaged.
But you don't have to accept this. You don't have to remain quiet. You can beat the odds for yourself whilst also changing the odds for lots of others. This is the definition of resilience that we use.
Young people up and down the country are starting to speak up about the unfairness in our society and looking to challenge systems such as school exclusions, social care, disability rights and more. Local youth groups and campaign groups are a good place to start. Why not search online to see what's in your area? We can't do it on our own though. We need local MPs, councillors, teachers and other people with power in the system to speak up, to listen, to provide a platform and to be open to change.
This video has been brought to you from the Resilience Revolution, a passionate mix of people who care deeply about building a fairer society for all. If you want to know more about this video, contact HeadStart at blackpool.gov.uk.